sort of plays from Nuki trying to go lurking. And actually, in terms of the setups from NIP, I'm a little bit worried because they at least previously had a bit of a lapse over mid, and that's one of the spots that he's going to be looking to start on. Either way, we will be getting into our pistol round. We'll have to wait a little bit for that because it's actually going to be the Ninja starting out on the attack.
Yeah, they like to take this one nice and slow. Pump the brakes, you know? And straight away, mid-control for Heretics. They're popping down smokes. They're trying to stop anybody from pushing out. And as they do, Nuki was there to greet them, but not quite hitting that headshot. Korea's been big in the last map. He had some really large, really flashy rounds. And right now, he's the one that's opening this up, giving the man advantage over to that attacking side. And they've got plenty of options now for where they want to take it. Looks like the B side is their preference. And with the wall that's down, Heretics have completely left this site.
Yeah, the worry is there's still one for NIP, so now you've only got one avenue back in to actually try and do anything here. If I say that, they're actually coming in on a fast flank. Pora wrapping him from behind. He's got a Vova alongside him as well, and they've done a hell of a lot of damage getting back into this site fairly early.
Sage drop is always going to be impactful. You lose your heals in a pistol round where that little bit of extra health can make all the difference. Chihuahua lurking in towards B main as that wall had broken. They're spamming away. They're looking for kills, but it's all a distraction. Chihuahua to emerge from the smoke, but not victorious. Side swiped and taken down. Korea with it all to do, and it's just not possible. Defuse to come through. That is the pistol round going the way of Heretics.
Yeah, the re-aggression there from Heretics was what completely changed the round. A bold move, to say the least, especially when your opponents have been almost sat in mid for a while, just waiting patiently. Like, playing up against Existence teams is always difficult because, again, he'll completely switch things up over the rounds. But that was the game changer because you look at the setup, they'd walled deep into B. We also had the second wall then put down so that they couldn't rotate through. So I think the only way they win the round is actually by going for that fast flank. So great read from Heretics. They're going to bring that home. And now moving into the second round, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything because every time I talk about NIP and pistols, we all know what happens.
Yeah, we do. Headshots galore. Lots of sheriff kills. It's madness. And really, you don't want to count a team like this out. Having said that, with the way that the second rounds have gone in the first and second map, it has been a consistent bundle of kills. Going to map 1, it was 3 kills for each, then 2, then 3. You've got to be very careful. You've got to give them space and respect. And Avova, well, he hadn't learned his lesson. It's dropped right away, up behind in garden, and with that, man advantage. But no weapon recovered, at least a small victory. It does also mean Heretics are more likely to keep in this position, right? They're more likely to defend that fallen weapon and not allow an opportunity for NIP to recover. As they're quite spread out, Tom. That's quite a little bit surprising to me because if you're NIP right now, numbers is really where you can win it. And fast-paced executes is where they found a lot of their success. But this time they're spreading for map control.
I almost wonder if they're trying to sell this as a fake. Again, this is something that Existence would do quite regularly, using Chihuahua's cages to try and bait people in. This time he's trying to fake that it's only Rhyme on this side of the map. The problem is, without Rhyme being there, it's not worth the risk anymore to try and push elsewhere. And they've got 20 seconds. Now, no matter what you say about this round, they don't want to be alive at the end unless they've won it.
Absolutely, or unless there's this spike they can dive into if it's the defenders usually. At 10 seconds left, it's time to just go. Just send it, cross over, and try desperately to plant. 5 on the clock as they get to the site. The plant will be gotten. And with JD's kill, it's a 2v2. A winnable situation for sure. Still with Nuki alive, I'll never count them out of a round, that's for sure. Wallbangs coming through. Decent little bit of tickle damage going in. But all it takes is one bullet from these sheriffs, and the round flips on its head. A 2v1 could be in play, and JD forces a fight up close. Rubino quick to connect that kill and leave Korea all by himself. He's got it all to do. He's being swung on and quickly onto Nuki. One bullet, all that he needed, but it can't be connected. Defuse to come through. Heretics, I don't even want to call this a round win. They get another on the board, but having lost 4 players, Tom, it's going to be a pretty tough next round.
Yeah, can we go back to like the very beginning of Valorant and call that one a draw? Like round draw. Let's put that into play, because realistically, I would almost put that over as a win on the side of NIP. Like, they take down 4 players. They've got themselves a spike plant as well. They've built up a fair few ult orbs as well. Like, normally, that's the benefit of being on Heretics' side, is you're the ones with your ultimates. Well, the only person at the moment with one is Kriya, and Akukos and JD are not far behind. 2 very impactful ults if they come through. So this is a scary round for Heretics. The thing is, though, if you go back to the first map, we were saying similar things, and then they just kept winning rounds.
I mean, surprise has been pretty much a key word for this entire series. If you were to sum it up, that would pretty much do it. The rounds that you count players out of or buy as investments, you say that can't really get that much damage done, and before you know it, it's a round win for that team that you presumed had lost. I think we're seeing a very similar approach to what we've seen in the pistol round from NIP. They push middle, they wall it off, they try to convince those B players to move, that have moved rather, to move back. But the A aggression has been spotted, marked, and now pushed by Nukie, who gets this aggressive spot all the way up into spawn, but he wasn't ready for them to be there. His crosshair moves as 2 players emerge around the corner. With a Vova, you really want a paranoia in this position, but he doesn't have one. The sight clear. Do they think that Nukie was the sole player pushing up? Or will they suspect a Vova? They're clearing him for now, but they look away at the wrong moment. A free double for him, and he tears that attack to shreds, stopped in their tracks. But a 1v4. Not going to be happening. Not today.
No. Not quite. Yeah, I like the decision making there from Avova. Like, you can almost guess that this is an angle they're unlikely to check. Like, in fact, normally when you have someone going that aggressive, you actually start rotating players to the other side of the map. You don't have a second player then stacking up the same side. That doesn't really make much sense, but they almost use it as bait. Now, one thing I will like, I know that we've had the desk talk a lot about the pick of Reyna. I think the position that, at least in the early stages, we saw Nuki playing, if he can get aggressive around that angle, I think it almost benefits his defensive side to have the ability to not only leer in, but then also to just dismiss back out. And if he can continue to find openers, as he has done throughout the series, this makes things quite a bit more difficult. I also think that one of the big game plans for Heretics so far this game is just take Chihuahua out. Like, get rid of him, get rid of that lurk, because then NIP, I don't want to say they panic, but they have to completely change their game plan.
You know, playing around Chihuahua is somewhere that a lot of value has been found for NIP in the past. So
yeah,
dealing with him, and in fact, look at his position right now. Obviously, we're in a Sheriff round yet again. And what I find very interesting is that NIP's Sheriff rounds, or their ecos, although we've seen a great amount of damage done in that second with the 4 kills that they found, they're not approaching them in a more conventional way. They're spread out. They take 3 players mid, 1 watching B, 1 watching A pushes. And then even when they finish their default, they don't group up necessarily. They're heavy on fakes, which, as you said, is something Existence likes to do a lot. But it seems like every round now we've had a fake play. And that aggression, that's just netted them a free opening duel, but not a lot of info on where these guys were going.
Yuki playing a little bit of DM, it seems. It's like, okay, no one else can die to the pistols if I just take them all down initially. They're gonna Kriya finding one. The peek back in from Pora, though. That's solid. He worked out the bait. Spike gonna be dropped. And well, that's gonna be the round done. A much cleaner round as well. That's something we haven't witnessed too much from Heretics. And the one thing that gets quite exciting for them as a squad is, again, I really don't like bringing up Nuki all the time, but he is probably the most dynamic player on their team. When they have the cash and he brings in an operator, their whole setup changes. They can play him as a rotational player. I will say, though, considering he's the man to normally pick it up and Kriya on the other side, in terms of the percentage of how many rounds you're going to see it, just in general, it's around 6%. So I wouldn't get too excited if you are a Nuki fan, you want to see him using that operator, because chances are, unless they have crazy amounts of cash, it's not going to happen.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Tom. We've only seen it once so far this series, where he picked it up on Bind. I don't recall him using it on Split at all, which is...
No, I think Bind he's a lot more comfortable on anyway, but again, like, the rounds were so back and forth that financially it would have been silly to go for that much of an all-in play.
Yeah, I identify with the bear. He's broken the shelf. Too many cakes. It happens to me all the time. Too many milkshakes, maybe. But yeah, no, like 4-0 for Heretics. They're clocking up rounds, 4 in a row. This is the kind of lead that NIP had in the previous. Then things started to fall apart a little bit. Now that NIP have their own bye, see what they're going to be able to do. It's interesting that, you know, they take such an aggressive stance on A main in this round, and I feel like this is because of the control they gave up previously, right? They allowed for Avova and Nuki to push all the way up and got sideswiped by Avova to close out their buy round. Maybe this is why they're being so proactive, but what they might not have spotted is that although there's been no A main push, they've just gone up short. They've said screw it, and they've gotten Nuki into one of the hardest positions to clear out because it's so infrequently checked if you're pushing up middle, as NIP have loved to do so far.
There's a part of me that almost wonders if they're trying to bait his aggression at this point.
Oh, hello.
Because look at what Chihuahua's holding. He's prepared for it. It's a little bit labored, but he gets the job done. And they send that early utility maybe as a warning sign. Okay, you can take mid now. And this time, Nuki's actually gone down. And they go back to their initial setup. There is, however, still multiple players here. And the Rolling Thunder is going to leave it a little bit awkward, but there's a counter.
Now there's the Killjoy ultimate going down. The counter you're talking about to keep these guys out of position. They're still going to go for the plant by the looks of things with time so low. They don't want to risk utility keeping them out. That means almost certainly there's the detain. But it can almost serve as a bait sometimes. There's so many players to cover him. JD's not really in any danger, but they have given up complete control of the site. They're going to fight it inside the smokes. There's a res to play with as well if they need it, but it's being diffused. They need to get the shots on, and nobody connects onto Rubino, who just sticks it from the second he gets on. That is a disaster now for NIP, losing out that round. I really thought we would see more of a direct spam focused on the spike, but it seemed like it was anybody's game to just fire some bullets through the smoke and hope for the best.
Yeah, I will say Heretics did well to make it really awkward to try and get back into the site, but this is the power of a lockdown. You forced them all the way back. There was nobody on any avenue, so there's no other angles that need to be cleared, and even though they didn't really need to body block, they could have done. So, yeah, NIP round started well. They did everything right, and now it's completely gone to shreds, and they're just going to change the pace up. Let's try it quickly into B. They've left Chihuahua behind again, but just look at the utility, and even look at the setup. There are 3 players waiting here. A solid read from Heretics once again.
Oh, that spot, it's always dangerous, and this is what they were lacking in the previous round over on the NIP side. Sova to spot a player behind that smoke and see they were still diffusing. You know that Rhyme is stuck up in the corner, but on that angle, it's not really easy to connect the shots onto him, so they decide instead to back off. For Heretics, you know, information is really lacking at this stage, and with Avova going down just as he looks away with his smoke in hand, that leaves Pora all by himself. He uses his utility, his nano swarms, to keep them back, grabs a kill, swings back to default, but takes some damage for his trouble. The swing a bit too wide, but JD and Rhyme, they're quick to clean up. 2v4, man advantages swinging for the attackers, and so are the kills, so are the duels. NIP, they look to have gotten their first round on the board, unless Lowell has got one of those big 1v4s up his sleeve again.
Spike planted.
If he pulls this off, I think NIP just DC. I think you just call it a day. Nice shot to at least get the first, but
away from red.
His heal's not going to get him too far. Yeah, he's not... The thing is, the amount of time it would take him to, or at least hopefully, unless someone on NIP is very aggressive, he would have to get a kill very fast, find someone to res, and then manage to get back into the site. And I just don't think there's a chance for that. You can see them almost baiting him in on the angles. He's just looking to make this as costly as humanly possible. And although he doesn't get too much done, he's earned the res for the next round, which is something that's always going to be impactful. And he's taken another gun with him.
Yeah, great stuff. The damage done is... like, it could have been better, but a good setup by NIP really denies what could have been a pretty sick clutch based on what we saw before. Round 6, and it's 5-1. Heretics have definitely built the foundations of a good half, and now it just comes down to cementing them even further. I see Nuke and Rubino this time, the ones that are grouped up outside of A main, so I presume some sort of a reveal as Nuke pushes forward and gains a lot of control, but that flash, well, it deters any aggression.
Oh, that is awkward, Korea! He just goes running around the corner, not expecting anyone to be there, and Nuki, he's so well placed to just do damage again and again! 3 kills for him, but he's matched by JD. a 2v2 scenario, time been given for the rotation, and everybody's been worked out, Mitch. There's a good chance for both teams, and the res will come through.
The wall broken, but up goes an ice wall to peek through. Afterwards, JD is snuck into a great position after rezzing a Kukos. Oh, he knew exactly what he was doing. A 4K for him, shredding that attack, or defense rather. And I have to say, I love the approach here from NIP. When they push into the site, they're ready to take fights. The confidence there, knowing that they have that res in the back pocket. They lose a lot of players to Nuke, but the response is quick. I don't know about this first push, though. I don't know what kind of read Korea had there, but it was the wrong one.
Spike down.
I think it might more be down to just the setup that we've seen previously. Like, Nuki's all over the map, so at different times, if you're going to be trying to predict every single thing he does, it's just not going to be possible. But yeah, they definitely get caught. Again, we're going to see an adaptation, and I genuinely think at this point, like, NIP are just trying to condition Team Heretics into thinking they're going to go every round. What? An aftershock kill? Like, there was no pressure there.
Yeah.
I don't know how low died.
At a guess, he walked backwards into it, not realizing it was there with very poor timing. That's the best I can do. Anything shy of that, and I'm
It's a very quiet
confused.
ability, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You'd never hear it. You have to be inside it to hear it. Really. Oh, it's OP. We need to buff that. Not that they recently did. You know, it now reaches through half the map. You're gonna have a teleport into B, but this is actually a bit of a disaster in timing, because Avova does that as a bit of a recon dart, right? He knows that B main is clear, but he was actually 10 seconds too early. Now NIP, they're walking over towards the B site. They're about to push on through B main, and the response from Heretics after seeing it was clear was to 4-man stack the A side of the map with just Pora watching mid.
Yeah, you definitely can't blame them for this call. Everything points to a fact that this is going to be an A hit, especially after the last couple of rounds, rotating back in that direction, a fast play to push into that site. Now, we're going to see Pora do his best to try and deny this, but with already control taken towards Boathouse, I think this just has to be a save.
10 seconds left.
I mean, it's a tough call. It really is. They could risk it, but with a Rolling Thunder and a Hunter's Fury, I don't know that you want to. Although they've already managed to bait out a Rolling Thunder, which is more than worthwhile. NIP being a bit overzealous with that one. At this point, you should be able to safely say they're not going for it, but I see them grouped up. I see them looking for fights. This is kind of insane, to be honest. The clock is heavily against them. Man advantages are gone. Hunter's Fury can be set up to delay the defuse, and indeed, they eventually realize that this round is definitely gone. They get nothing for it, no damage to the NIP economy, and they lose 2 weapons. So this is altogether a fairly negative round. The one upside is that at least they made that Rolling Thunder. They made it, force the investment of it, rather.
Yeah, it's a bonus, at least. I think for NIP, it's more of a case of, we want to take this round and we want to take it cleanly. Make sure that our economy is set for the future. Especially with the manner in which Existence likes to play his attacks. Like, you have to look at it and go, he wants extra utility. He wants enough that they can throw in these cheeky little fakes and then go all the way back. And as said, like, he's going to try and get in your head to the point where you believe he's going one direction, and in fact, it's a completely different idea. In fact, some of the matches watched previously, he would even just try and hit the same site twice just to bait people. Now this, again, complete change of pace. We've seen them pressure A for a lot of the last few rounds. So this round, Mitch, of course, they're going to pressure into B.
And for NIP, they have 3 players on max money after this round as well, like 7.5 or above. Oh, 4 players spotted. Hello, Hunter's Fury. So many players tagged on up. Rabino gets one, Nuke with another, but the return is there. Rhyme grabs himself a kill. He's going to look for a little bit more in towards B main, knowing that these guys are pushing forward. Shock darts come into play, but don't connect anything. With Heretics on the man advantage and with the better weapons, they're the ones that should be kind of controlling the pace of this round now. It's only the Judge that is a disadvantage for Avova. And in the position he's holding, it could come back to bite him, actually. He decides to push into A main, which I think is the right call. Look at the control. Look at where Chihuahua is.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's now there's a lurk and a second lurk, because you've got a player pushing in the form of JD to try and take some control further, and then a player moving into CT. However, someone has eyes in the back of their head because it was worked out by Rubino. Just goes, okay, you know what? I'm just going to check spawn just in case. And Chihuahua's like, dude, seriously? The 1 second you can actually spot me, you're going to peek straight in. They even go for an economy res as well, just to make sure that Nuki will have everything into the next round. So Heretics, they've taken their sick. They've taken it in relatively clean fashion as well. Great Hunter's Fury coming out from Rubino to do some extra damage. I do believe that we saw an awful lot of ults used in that round, though. So maybe a bit of a cheese round for Heretics. Like, okay, we're going to throw in the Empress. We're going to throw in the Hunter's Fury and a Res. Like, they're the main ults you're going to be using on this defensive side.
What's quite surprising, Avova didn't manage to grab himself an upgrade, so he was actually left with a Judge, and I believe he's dropped that on the floor now to play primarily around the Phantom. Altogether, though, the economy looking a bit healthier for Heretics, and Nuki on middle again and again. We should just spectate this guy at the start of every round. It seems like he is so happy to take these early fights, and it's something I would say it's far more aggressive than any Reyna I've seen before, but it's controlled, right? One kill and back. It's not just W keying. And I would compare it to a Jet op, possibly even further. There's a Judge on the ground in front of Avova, and there could be some situations in which he picks it back up, but for the most part, it will be the Phantom that he uses as he pushes on forward to try and cut this off. I don't know what Rubino was thinking on that one, but that plan was certainly not the right one. Dropped in the open, and so too is Nuki. Players falling one after another. Heretics have to make a big clutch comeback here, and Pora, interesting swarm grenade because there's a wall there. Maybe he thinks someone's on top of it. We'll start to move forward with this ultimate just to secure the site, and now it's all about sticking it. That swarm still allows them to peek up behind it. It just stops them from pushing on through. He has a tight angle, but now the smoke fades, and he needs all of these kills. No chance. Not in a million years. JD shuts him down. Another round for NIP.
Yeah, that was one of those retakes that I think Heretics are just going to want to forget. Like, we saw, it was completely disjointed. Like, you had Rubino peak, then a few moments later you had Nuki peak. I can't remember who the third player was, but then also solo peaked. And sure, the two players at the end, they try and play it together, but at that point, it's too little too late. Especially when you have a lockdown. Like, I feel like you should be waiting until that's used.
100%, 100%, Tom. You've got to make that call. I've got lockdown. Let's play around it. Instead, now Rubino in the first place, he got pushed out. He had utility coming his way. I understand it. But Nuki wanting to swing and trade even after he was dead, I don't know. Seems like overcommitment when you can play that ult and try to stick the defuse afterwards. All they needed was extra players. Nuki's just going for the heal. Pops a Leer. Not a chance, though. Kukos is in this time to take him out. The wall up, but there's no chance for a res. It's not possible. Not even close, only 2 points up on the board. And so that's a valuable kill for NIP right away.
They're going to start breaking the wall. You can already see with the surrenderment of mid that Rubino's going to be watching to make sure that no one's gone in that direction, but it's far more patient from NIP this round. Of course, they always have their classic luck on the other side of the map, just waiting. The battle of Killjoy versus Cypher will ensue once again. That paranoia is spot on, though. It may not garner a kill, but it's forced Lau away and actually pulled back one more player. And you can see Akukos is going to try and move off this. Watching into mid, being wary to make sure that there's no aggression elsewhere. The only real worry at this point is the time. 30 seconds left. If they want to go for a rotation back to A, they have to make it now. Otherwise, it looks like it'll be flat out B.
I think you're pretty bottlenecked with that low time and it just pushing the B side. He gets stunned on the way out, which is a bit unfortunate as Rubino wants to take the fight up close and somehow capitalizes a double. The swing not quite connecting, but around the smoke, Lao's good for one, the spray down for more, and Heretics, they get on the board, trading back and forth. NIP, they're not getting away with a streak of rounds. Not just yet. Now 7-4, a 3-round lead, and we could be looking at 8 rounds for Heretics as we come out of this half.
Yeah, I've spoken a lot about conditioning, like how it seems like Existence tries to get players to almost hold in certain positions and push at certain times. I think they were so convinced that someone was going to go hunting for information that they ran out of time. Like, it looked like they were peeking back into mid, like, still had a late lurk. They were like, okay, someone's got to push eventually, and Heretics just went, lads, you know what, this round, let's just wait. Let's just hold. And then it just looked a bit dodgy towards the end. Now, again, they're going to take the battle versus Nuki, but this time it's fine. They have a res.
They do indeed, and this is where you can play that little bit looser, take those opening fights as you wish, and a very valuable death. with Heretics losing Nuke, it's a lot of their puggy ability. It's their flashes for the most part gone out of this round. And with the players spotted close, Ryan doesn't get any more information to play around, but he's selling a fake. Peddling snake oil. It's not an A hit. They're moving instead towards the B site, which now is wide open for business. Only Killjoy utility covering that push. And there we go. Little ult point for the Rolling Thunder. Tucked in the corner. It's the faker of Rhyme. And with him dropped, Lal has a good idea that, well, A is all his. They rotate players back into the B site, but NIP, they're selling double, triple, quadruple fakes. They're coming back towards A to look for this fight.
And Lau used the wall to actually bait them out to get that pick, but now it is going to be that thing of like, okay, well, he was isolated. The only reason he'd make that play is if other players have rotated. The problem now is that I think the defense have a read. They have an idea that it's coming back in this direction, but they're so reliant on Lau to at least get something done. He peeks in. I thought for a second he might get two, and the wall is actually going to deny Avova much more. He breaks it, but runs out of ammo before he can take anyone with him.
A tough retake, you know, earlier in this round we saw Pora tank an Aftershock, so he's down on 33 HP, alarm bot on site, he's going out wide with utility in hand, very lucky to still be alive. Korea takes him down, good info for Avova to play off of, the head spotted, connected through the wall, Classic comes out, he's not quite that low, but eventually falls, and with JD all alone, he only has Avova to contend with, knows exactly where he is, and he snuck his way around the generator, caught off by the angle, but JD always one for the spray. Connects a fifth now for NIP. That is the half ending with just a 2-round lead for Heretics. Considering this started 5-0, I think NIP have made a pretty good recovery.
Yeah, definitely not bad. I think it's the same as when you watch FPX. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to work out the plays that are being made, and I think towards the end of it especially, they started to do well to counter Nuki. Like, I think you can take that. Okay, 1-for-1 trade, that's fine, especially in this round, for example, where they had the res. JD also just having a fantastic performance, and it's so much more beneficial. Like, we see the same on Zipan. Like, when he plays Sage, you can expect him to get a lot of kills. That means you get an extra res or two, and that's so valuable. We've seen it even in the final round. Like, having that res makes a huge amount of difference.
The essential head-to-head of JD and Nukia that we saw as well in round 7, where Nukia found the 3K, but JD one-upped him and took 4, and then winning out that 1v2 for a 3K in the final round. You know, really, I would argue that at this point, NIP would be down. They'd have 3 rounds if it wasn't for JD in those 2 massive moments alone. So he has really been a godsend for this team. And the pistol, straight away control of middle goes to Heretics, but that wall will slow them down quite a bit.
Yeah, the Sage wall in these sort of rounds is just annoying. Like, it takes so long, you don't want to be wasting your ghost bullets, you don't have a massive amount, so a lot of the time it's just going to be down to the knives. Very aggressive stance, and the paranoia actually only gets one of the players. So JD takes the pick onto Avova, the re-aggression will come through, but they're out of there, they're gone. And that's going to be a problem, especially with the way that the wall was set up on shore. It's difficult to get past it without breaking the majority, so they knew that they were still safe from any other angle.
Fight from Rhyme. Does it all the time. He sees 3, but it's about time to just fall on back and wait for his teammates. The retake that they want to attempt will be without JD. Was caught unaware and flanked out from Garden. At this point, you know, the extra manpower that they've got allows Heretics to make this bit of a move. When it's a 4v4, you know NIP are going to be slow pushing in. You know that door is down on a pistol. They've got plenty of time, and Lal's the one that's making that work. There's nobody watching their 6 right now. This is allowing the sneaky, beaky cloak and dagger play from Lal. He gets up behind and picks up the kill. Heaven Control goes towards NIP. Towards Heretics, sorry, as NIP come back out to retake it. And Chihuahua falls. This is a bit of a disaster, a catastrophe of a pistol round, one that they desperately wanted and probably needed. NIP now 3 behind, facing into an eco.
Yeah, perfect flank. Couldn't have been any better. The second he gets even 1 kill, the rest of the round for NIP has to be killing him. Like, you can't allow him to survive. You won't stand a chance in getting the defusal. So perfect flank, decent round for them in general, especially considering how it started. Like, went quite well for NIP to find that opening pick. Now, though, we're at the same place once again. We've got ourselves a few pistols invested. Chihuahua, come on. Come on. Where's the sheriff? I'm not okay with this. Why? Like, don't get me wrong, JD has been fantastic. But if you're asking me who I want to have a sheriff, it has to be Chihuahua.
Yeah, really, the amount he's had the clips and the highlights, he's been out there already a couple of times in this game. I think the only player that takes the cake over him is Nukia. What we saw from him on Bind with the Sheriff was something I don't ever wish to see again. It was filthy, but beautiful. Nukia coming out wide, takes Rhyme, dismiss, and that's the beautiful thing about the dismiss in that scenario. They're shooting at you, and you're not taking any damage while your teammates sort of trade you without you even having to die. It's perfect. It's the perfect distraction play, and as it comes in, and as well, even further, because it's like you're facing against a Sheriff or some classics, it's not as easy to spray transfer when you realize this guy's dismissed. Really, you're looking at your first bullet with these kind of weapons on range, and after that, you're in dire straits. Nice charge up by Nuki in this round. I mean, we don't expect anything from NIP, let's be very frank about that. They get one kill, it's mediocre. But Nuki's now got his ult and a Spectre, so that makes this weapon so valuable versus a full buy.
Yeah, this is where basically Nuki's going to look to try and just carry them through this bonus round. And he is the sort of player that will be able to do it. Now, normally you'd see him more in a sort of lurk role. Like the control they like to take into mid in their buy rounds is something that I genuinely think NIP are going to struggle with. Because when we watch them versus Ascend, a lot of opening picks went against them. Players got caught out by the aggression of Ascend. Like, you had players like CNED just basically going up for these sort of aggro peaks that we see from him. Obviously with the backup of his team. But they also abandoned mid a lot. Now, on the other side of the coin, Heretics love to take mid control. A round like this, I don't expect to see it so much, but that's mainly because of the weaponry they have.
We just had a tactical pause, of course, and coming into this round, it's very important. If you're staring down the barrel that NIP are, you need to win it, without a doubt. This is for a playoff spot. This is to not go down to the lower bracket, to face a team that previously we've seen them struggle against. NIP want to get on the board here and not allow Heretics to run away with it, but a one-for-one trade, that's exactly what the attackers want when they've got these weak weapons.
Good. Nuki didn't even pop the Empress either, so our whole point of how he was going to play this round just gone completely out the window. Sometimes caster equals stupid, but it's alright. We've got fantastic analysts to break things down afterwards. They'll tell you all the information that we, of course, missed. And now, the aggression coming out again. This is a bit of a risky push, especially considering the round. Trades here for the attack will be absolutely fine, but they don't expect Chihuahua. He's the knife in the back, the lurker in the darkness. And they have no choice but to give up this control. They don't want to face him at this point. It does leave one defender on B. In fact, it leaves no defenders on B. Maybe a bit of a misread here. The timing does at least work out. Ryan will be in position, but he's having to look between two spots. And I do wonder if Rubino might catch a cheeky timing here.
He might do. He's already out, already holding the angle. And as Rhyme comes back in, it's a wall that goes up in his face. They get over towards watching this alley push out. They should be ready for it, and not quite, actually. Not ready to take the fight. Instead, focusing on the site. A plan to come in. A 2v3 retake. NIP have the advantages. Everything is lined up for them to take this round. Utility not there. All they have is a recon arrow to work with. No flashes, which would be perfect. That recon gets a reveal. They know there's a player behind the site, and Chihuahua hits it quickly. It's all down to Rubino, and he runs out of ammo. A 3K for Chihuahua, a cleanup for NIP, and a round needed secured.
Yeah, that was a necessity. Like, we go into that talking about how I think it was 4 Spectres and a pistol. So this was not a proper investment for Heretics. They took a bit of a risk, and in a 2v3, they could have got a lot more. But what they've done is still enough. NIP are not out of the woods just yet, because there's going to be a buy coming back up. The Empress is still available. Laul as well is only 2 points away from getting a res, so this next round could get pretty rough for them. And sure, JD as well is only 1 away from a res, so let's not just highlight the point, but I feel like this is a round again that NIP need to win, otherwise financially they're going to be in a little bit of a rough spot, and more importantly, Heretics will be on 10 rounds and close to sending them into the lower bracket.
Oh, this goes here.
You said a couple of players close to the full umbrella. Once they get that ultimate online, changes the game completely. I mean, the confidence that you can give somebody, especially when it's Heretics that have a res online. Whew, I don't want to be messing with Nuki when he knows he can get revived on the attack side as well. That space taking is going to be huge. Speaking of taking space, look at where Heretics are going. They're waltzing up towards Garden and taking the fight right away, pushing that player back, forcing paranoia usage, smoke usage. That's a lot of utility gone for Heretics, or for NIP, sorry, now that they need to defend this A site. At least there's 3 players in heaven, but that might not be the case for long. Chihuahua caught on the cross. Man advantage for the attackers, and site control is pretty firmly theirs.
That's your anchor gone as well, and JD, well, he's got his res. Unfortunately, he can't bring himself back, and this is what Nuki is known for. This is what he's renowned for on this map. The late lurk through mid. I want to point out, while we have a moment, that they actually were prepared for that. And the way that I know that is they had a cam set up in mid, but remind us, Mitch, who was the first man to die in this round?
It was, of course, Chihuahua. We saw him jumping out in heaven and dying on the cross. Unlucky. I mean, you plan it around that camera, and then the player that's in the most compromised position after the initial fight on short is the one that needs to watch the flank. Oof. Doesn't work out too well most of the time, Tom.
Yeah, it's one of those things where obviously Nuki's going to be very reliant on the rest of his team in a lot of these rounds if he's going to continue to play like that. Luckily, there are plenty of players that when it comes to quote-unquote entry fragging on this team can do it very well, and this man is definitely one of them. JD, he's got his trusty pistol, but this time Lau gets the better of him.
Shock darts over. Lau avoids being even traded on HP. Pretty full for the most part. NIP staring down the barrel of a gun. Weak weapons, full buy in the next, and that's their last chance to really make anything happen. If not, they'll be going to the lower bracket. 3 more rounds for Heretics, and that will be the case. In this round, likelihood of getting anything done is, again, extremely low. I do find it odd that the player with the Marshal is the one with armor. It's rare that that'll happen. Because on a Sheriff, especially on a Ghost, you can get much more value from having that armor and being able to stay alive that little bit longer than you will on a Marshal, where when you fired your shot, you're probably dead if you've missed it.
Yeah, this execute's just going to be rough, I reckon. Like, they're going to know exactly where that remaining player is. That you do not put a lockdown into spot without knowing that that position is still compromised. So, plenty of utility used to just make sure they clear Chihuahua. Great execution from Heretics, of course. This sort of round, it's been risky for them so far. Like, we've even witnessed them lose a few, even towards the latter stages of Bind. They lost a round like this, and it eventually caused their demise. So I like the fact that they're being thorough, being careful, and sure, you don't really want to be using your lockdown just to confirm, like, anti-eco rounds, but even still, like, to make sure that they don't lose anything here, that's fine by me.
I do think it's one of the... Oh, no, guys. Heaven's open and no one's watching it. That's a weapon lost for no reason when they've already committed so much, you know? You'd rather not see it. One thing I will say, lockdown usage versus an eco, I actually kind of love it. Considering what they have about to come online, like Sova's just 2 away from Hunter's Fury. They already have a res. They already have Empress. They have the money to drop over a weapon as well, which I guess is maybe a little bit of a counter to the point. But... the thing is, when you're in a position like that, you could be running into 2 to 3 players stuck on corners, playing in the back of A site. There could be so many different things. And all it takes, and we've seen it in this series, all it takes is one Sheriff, one Ghost, who's got that angle you're not expecting, and there's a 3K already. So the fact that they commit it when they have so much about to come online, there are better uses for it, sure, but it's very responsible in such an important round.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can agree with that. Now, Kriya... as we said, op usage, both of these teams, I think he buys it slightly more than you might see it from Nuki, but that might just be down to the amount of maps they've actually played throughout the tournament. It genuinely could be. We haven't seen a whole lot of Heretics, mainly because of how they managed to get through. But we'll see if it can change the dynamic, especially with the current scoreline. They really need Kriya to have a step up. Now, they've got deep beat control. They've got a wall down. They've got a lot of information that there's nobody on that side of the map. But the pace of Heretics is going to make this awkward. They're not going to rotate in time.
Nukia is about to take a fight, and indeed he does. Kriya traded out a second for him as he proceeds to under heaven. Lal pops a res, and Nukia, caught by that, but not pushed up into the air. That's huge. Even destroys that recon dart. Now playing from down below, but Avova from afar. That's the round secured. 12 on the board. Heretics are looking unstoppable. Nothing can get in their way. And NIP, they now need 6 rounds in a row, or they will be going down to the lower bracket. This is a tough tough time to be a Ninjas fan.
Yeah, and the thing is, in that round, NIP actually did a pretty decent job of getting info. They deny any control of the B site. It's just the change of pace from Heretics. Like, before we've seen them probing into mid, they've taken battles to try and isolate players. This time they go, right guys, flat out push in towards the A site. And one of the things I really want to give credit for, we talk a lot about Existence Akukos as the in-game leader, as someone we know from Counter-Strike as a legendary IGL. Lau has picked up the mantle of IGL for this Heretics team. And let's be real, his calls have been solid throughout this map.
100%. You got to give props. And I think when you're looking at Heretics with such a... I mean, I don't want to say like young roster, but in the roles that they're in, it's so quickly shifting. The definition of what Heretics are, how they'll play, map to map, their lineup even changes, and yet they're still able to have this level of organization and efficiency. It's a beautiful thing to watch Heretics. They came out of left field at first strike for most of us, and they haven't gone anywhere since. They're NIP. They're not the team you want to be facing, but they're the one you've got as they look for 6 consecutive rounds, burning everything. They're investing as much as they possibly can, getting information, but nothing is to be bought. Heretics have heavy mid control, and Pora picks up the first. That's a Kukos down. Flash is gone. No Rolling Thunder, at least. He lost, but they've even spotted Chihuahua in the corner. He is screwed. There's players swinging on him absolutely everywhere, and this is a catastrophe for NIP. They've lost the A site. The plant is coming in, and all that remains are 2 Spectres to try and do something to this flawless attack from Heretics.
No chance. Absolutely none. They're already getting picked apart. Okay, there'll at least be an extra kill for Rhyme, but Rabino will put the final nail in the coffin. You know, we went into this